Okay. Either way. So I'm talking about. Oh, shit. I'm going to talk on Robert F. Kennedy. To those of you who do know, for those of you who don't know, he's the younger brother of course, JFK. And his title, quite ambiguously at the moment anyway, Make Gentle the Life of This World. So if you got started with Kennedy, his life. He was born as the seventh child of 9 in pretty much the political dynasty of America at the time. And he was kind of with his older brother JFK, Jack, and his other older brother Joe Sr. They were very much groomed for the presidency at a young age. But Rob was the runt of the family. Very, very small physical stature. And he was the one that he was left out from his father, left out from his family. But the one thing that was very evident from the very beginning is he had a very, very big heart and very big pool of compassion and empathy that was later to be built on future endeavours and future campaigns he undertook. Of course, I mean, who doesn't know? Anyone who doesn't know JFK? Pretty much the coolest president. But I saw an article the other day, and it referred to the Miliband brothers, David and Ed, as the Kennedys of the Brown-Blair government a couple of years ago. And it's there's a stark difference between the two, in the fact that Robert Kennedy literally put 12 years of his life to putting everything on hold, putting all of his ambitions on hold, in the pursuit of what his older brother, wanted to achieve. So he gave up his job at the Justice Department, he gave up his job as a district attorney, to work, literally campaigning for Jack, working for Jack, doing everything that Jack didn't want to do, all the dirty work with the Cubans, everything. It became very, very evident between the two. I mean, JFK's charismatic, he's a womanizer, he's a sex addict. And Robert did have a charisma, did have a charm. He was much shyer, he didn't have the kind of the brutal, almost in-your-face charm that Jack possessed. But he had a very, 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 very big ability and way to see how people work, see how he could connect with people. And it was very much unlike anything which has been seen and would have been seen if it had not been for his death. And then unfortunately, of course, Jack was shot by either Lee Harvey Oswald, who I personally believe now, or whatever you want to believe. And this had a huge effect on Robert, from being pushed back into the sidelines and literally working his whole life to help his brother, who very much thrust into the position of the head of the Kennedy family, with Joe Sr. gone, Jack gone, his dad heart attack, couldn't speak, and for being this underdog, this kind of runt, if you will, he had to become the figurehead of what people wanted to see at the time. And for the first couple of months after his brother's death, he became a recluse. He barely came out of the house because he had this huge, deep sense of grief for what he had lost. But as the guy said in the video, his whole life, his whole political embarkment, his whole dynasty that he would want to himself, prove himself, very much. So after 2 months, he read this book by Ian Hamilton called The Greek Way, and he read books by Albert Camus, all very philosophical. And he very much, as I said before, he had this huge pool and reservoir of compassion. And what he learned from the philosophers and through reading, he no longer became the kind of hot-headed, fiery member of the Kennedy family that people associated with him, and he became this beacon of peace. And he was the one, he was literally, I think, they were the 10th most richest family in America at the time, yet this guy was the one who literally he could understand and connect and relate to the huge amount of poverty and poor people that lived in America at the time. And in 1968, he had a huge feud with Lyndon Johnson, who was president at the time. In 1968, he decided to run presidency, and became, Jack was known for he was very cool, took a step back a lot, whereas Kennedy it's been referred to as a rock star. He would go to these rallies and people would grab at his shoes, rip his clothes, they loved this guy. And he gave a speech at the death of Martin Luther King to announce to the Louisiana people that Martin Luther King had died, and he gave a speech. And the only city in America that didn't have rioting that night was Louisiana, after Robert Kennedy wrote a quick speech on a napkin and read it out to them. And there's this story, him and his wife Ethel constantly throw massive Gatsby-esque parties with all their celebrity friends, huge, like twice a week. And there's a story of, everyone's seen Wizard of Oz? The old one? Yeah. The actress from Dorothy, the person who played Dorothy, and she had taken, I think she'd been taken ill, she had a bag, she'd fallen from the spotlight, and was standing on her own in the corner. And all these celebrity people, not ignoring her on purpose, but they weren't, she was she's the fallen star. And Robert saw this, took her over, got her hand, and took her into the middle of the dance floor, had a dance with her, to make her feel. He had this very long, he hid it, he concealed it, he had a big sense of heart and this empathy for people that needed it at the time. And unfortunately, in 1968, he was shot after winning the California primary. For those of you who don't know, in America, to become the representation of your political party, you win primary elections over there by state. And he won the big one, and he was shot by a Palestinian named Sirhan. And this, after huge hope, huge embodiment of peace, this guy had been extinguished. And it seemed as if very much it was, that hope had been put out. But having researched into what Robert wanted to do, researching into Jack, his brother, there's very very clear forward vision for what Robert wanted to do with the power he could have achieved. And one of the quotes from this book, actually, I recommend anyone who's slightly interested in this. It's a journal written by him over 4 years. He was district attorney and running for president, and it's basically the quotes. These are actually quotes from speeches, and he's written out quotes from many of his favourite philosophers and leaders. And one of his speeches was, "But neither can we afford to forget the real constructive force in this world comes not from bombs, but imaginative ideas, warm sympathies, and a generous spirit." He went down to campaign in New Mexico. There was a communist mine, and he was very much cautioned from going down there to associate himself with the red sweep that was coming over America. But he went down anyway, threw himself into it, he came back up, and he simply said, if I worked in this mine, I'd be a communist too. And it's one of my two favourite quotes. You guys can read them if you want to. The bottom one I highly recommend reading, very quickly. We can perhaps remember that those who live with us are our brothers. They share with us the same short moment of life, but they seek, as do we, nothing but the chance to live out their lives in happiness. And this was very much the driving force behind whatever endeavours Kennedy did. There was this huge desire to just help the people that were suffering, help people that needed it most. He was literally the embodiment and beacon of that change that he wanted to push. And this was the quote. He did a rally in apartheid, against apartheid in South Africa. And he said, "Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centres of energy, and daring those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance." And by studying and looking into what Robert wanted to do, he very much had this huge and grand sense of what the world could become if we put the suffering of people who needed it more, people who were born into such poverty, at the forefront of what he wanted to do, what he wanted to try and eradicate. And I'll leave you guys with one last. At his wake in 1968, his brother simply said, "My brother need not be idolized or enlarged in death beyond what he was in life. Rather, he should be remembered simply as a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, saw suffering and tried to heal it, saw war and tried to stop it." And I will leave you with the quote and with the message that he lived by, with what he wanted to put into effect into the world. There's a simple quote from the writings of the Greeks many years ago. I had it on my bedroom door. I made like a fake poster of this quote. See it, it's like, well, I hope that when I walk out each day, seeing, okay, I'll do that. It was simply to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Thank you very much.